Hey everyone, welcome to the video. I know it's been a while since I've posted. I've actually just bit more personal things in my life. Of course, I'm a father. I'm starting graduate school just in a few weeks. So, life has been a little bit busy, but I'm back trying to give you guys a video. And this time around, I'm trying to create a course, a full lecture. So I'm starting with concepts of biology, and there will be a total of 10 chapters. And in these chapters, it will be an in-depth lecture, usually divided into two parts. I think for chapter one, it'll be a part one and a part two. And then for the rest of the chapters, I'll kind of gauge how long those videos are. So of course, these will be longer form videos, and I'll continue to post other videos in the typical format that I do. But I think this is a very good practice for me as I want to become a professor and give you guys some of the best lectures, the best content, and really help everyone gain knowledge on these very important biological topics. So let me stop talking. Let's get into it. So, if you guys don't know already, I'm the owner of this channel, Dre's Tutoring, Professor Mompoint. My full name is Diondremompoint. You guys can see a nice picture to the left, just so you guys can see the face to the channel. I'm a graduate from the Florida Atlantic University. I got my bachelor's in biology, and I'm continuing my education at Arizona State University, where I'll be pursuing my master's degree in biology. And then hopefully someday, one of these days, try to get my PhD. I'm also author of the book A Paradoxical Life, Where Did We Come From? I published this book in 2022. The main topics of this are the origin of life and the origin of everything. Where did we come from, right? So there's some spirituality in there. There's some biochemistry. There's some biology, and even some I would say cosmology. So if you guys haven't already, go ahead and take a look at this book. I'll have the link in the description. And this is something that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about biology, asking questions, having philosophical ideas, and having some of these discussions. Okay, so that's just a bit about me, just so you guys get familiar. You guys kind of see face to channel. I know my profile picture is up there already, but this kind of gives you guys an idea of who's behind the screen. Okay. So let's get right into it. The first thing that I want to do is go over the core concepts for chapter one, and that is biology. This is a biology course. So what exactly are we providing here? We're providing a basis for how organisms function and interact with one another. And this will be very important throughout this chapter and many other chapters that we go through. And then also knowing that biology is based on the life that we know on Earth. This is also important to consider because we have researchers, we have scientists that have researched and studied biology for the longest of time, but this is all based off of the information we know on our Earth. So when we do explore, we use these fundamental principles and these things that we know on Earth for searching for life on other planets. And these are called biosignatures or traces of molecules that indicate the presence of life. There are 8 fundamental characteristics that define life, and I'll get more in depth into it in later slides because, again, unfortunately, it's hard to really say what life is or the purpose of life, but at least in biology, what we can do is we can give you the characteristics or the properties that define something as life. Then next we have levels of organization in life, or in biology, where living things are made up of atoms, then to molecules, cells, and then cells make up tissue, organs, organ system, and then the organism. Okay. Now Then how do we group these organisms? And I hope you guys kind of see where we're going with this. So of course, again, we have 8 fundamental characteristics that define life. Example of life is yourself, myself. We are organisms and we're made up of atoms, molecules, and so on and so forth. Then we have to categorize these organisms because it's just not me and you. There's cats, there's dogs, there's plants, there's all different types of organisms, from the largest in the world to the very tiniest and smallest organisms that we have in microbes. So we have to classify them by cell type and taxa. Then you'll see evolution play a very key component, very key concept in almost every biological process. So I really want us to keep in mind what makes something defined as life, and then also that sprinkle of evolution, which will again be very important in this chapter. Then lastly, we go into the scientific method, which is one of the most important methods to science, not just biology, but to science in general. And this is how we acquire knowledge. We advance in subjects. We ask questions. We make hypotheses and we make observations. We're able to test them. So this is a very important method in all of science, okay? So let's go into our home. This is the very meat, not the meat, but the first part of this lecture, guys. Our home. This is where it all starts. This is where biology is. This is where life is. So just a bit about Earth. 8.7 billion species are on this Earth to this date. Approximately 4.6 billion years ago, due to thousands or countless, probably more than thousands, countless, we can't even count on our fingers, we can't even fathom or think of how many collisions there's been to between dust particles, asteroids, and growing planets. Earth formed this 4.6 billion years ago, and it is home to some of the wildest and craziest looking organisms, as well as some of the most complex biological processes and systems that we've ever seen. Of course, it'll be, the most complex we've ever seen because, again, everything that we know in biology is based on what we know on Earth. So I can't even think about, another planet in some other galaxy or something. But again, once you guys think about this, you guys will see through this chapter and then into future chapters just how crazy complex biology is, especially at the molecular level, which will be a separate course, but we'll dabble into some of that in some of these chapters. Then our best definition, of course, and I've said this, I think this is maybe the third slide, and I'm repeating, our best definition of life is represented by what we see on Earth. Again, we ask what is life and, the meaning of life. There's a difference between meaning and what is, and I'll get into that next slide. Themes and concepts of biology. Biology is the science that studies life. So, okay, what exactly is life then, right? It's hard to really say what life is, especially the purpose of life. There may be more of a spiritual aspect there for some people for the purpose and what is life, but we know as biologists, what we can do is create a list for characteristics that living things have. And this is how we're able to say if something is considered life. However, this may be the wrong class to go into the purpose, or maybe, why are we on this earth? All we can give is just a list of characteristics that living things have, and that is considered life. Biologists consider an object to be alive if and only if it displays all the properties which will be mentioned in the next few slides. If it does not have that characteristic, again, by what we know on Earth, it is not considered life. And this is exactly why when we do space exploration and even in astrobiology, we're looking for life on other planets. We're looking for those same characteristics that organisms have on our planet, from the type of atoms that we carry and, other characteristics, again, which we'll see in more slides. And I'm just getting so excited to try to hurry up and get there. So properties of life. Again, living things must have all of these characteristics. Number one is order. Living things are complex. Have you ever seen a cat, a dog, yourself? We're all made up of cells. We're highly organized and ordered and consist of many cells. You have heart cells, you have skin cells, liver cells, all these different cells that make up different parts and different systems. We're highly ordered and organized. It's a literally a system on how the organism works and even survives. So there has to be order there. Sensitivity or response to stimuli, these are chemical or physical changes that trigger behavioral changes. Organisms react to some sort of stimuli. An example of this, and we'll get into more detail in other slides, but an example of this is light stimuli. Your eyes dilate, or even plants respond to stimuli, some type of touch. There is some type of response or sensitivity. Next, we have reproduction. Organisms reproduce to keep the species alive. They have offspring. This is deep into genetics, and having offspring that may look like the parents and have some of those same physical characteristics, or phenotypically, or through their genes, having the same genes as their parents, some of the same genes, and then carrying it on and reproducing to keep that species alive. Then you have adaptation. This is just environment influences for survival. And again, we'll see in another slide where that takes place. Then you have growth and development. Not only do we reproduce and keep the species alive, but organisms grow and they develop through life. And develop meaning change. Again, phenotypically, no one just stays, small. This small little egg, they grow, develop, and then change throughout life. Okay. And then you have regulation. This is coordination of internal functions, and this is more into homeostasis, and maintaining internal balance, which is homeostasis. So, I'm sorry, guys. Lastly, energy processing. And this is to perform metabolism to function. So this is just a quick list that we have for the properties of life. But after this, we'll go into more depth and see some examples. So let's get into that. But, I'm sorry, I forgot about this slide. Before we actually go into, those characteristics, we ask the question, viruses, right? Are these living organisms? Why or why not? And I'll give you guys a quick second to kind of think of this. Again, if we go back, we look at the different properties: order, sensitivity, reproduction, adaptation, growth and development, regulation, homeostasis, energy processing. Are viruses considered living? The answer is no. Viruses can be transmitted from one organism to another and cause diseases, but are they considered living? So a virus attacks a living organism. A virus can reproduce inside the organism and cause disease. A virus is not composed of cells. Remember, what is one of the requirements? It has to be highly ordered, or and consists of one or more cells. Viruses, unfortunately, are not composed of cells. And then again, the other important requirement was that organisms reproduce. Viruses cannot reproduce on their own. They need a host. They have to attack a living organism and then be able to, replicate or reproduce. They cannot do it on their own. For these reasons, viruses would not be considered a living organism. This has stumped biologists and all types of scientists for the longest of time. They are not considered living, though they are pretty complex in terms of how they're able to hijack cells and some of the capabilities and diseases that they cause, but they are not considered living. So let's go into some of the properties that make an organism living. So first and foremost, we have order. Again, highly specialized, ordered, and made of one or more, made of many cells, right? An elephant is highly organized and consists of cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems. Look at that big thing. There's cells all over that form how it looks, its shape, its color, right? and it is highly organized. It's a very big creature, but you have to thank the cells that help make up the tissues, the organs and the organ system for it to be able to operate. Organisms are highly ordered. Next, you have sensitivity or response to stimuli. And we have the very sensitive plant called pudica. And I hope I'm saying that correctly because I'm not a botanist or anything. But response to stimuli, when you touch its leaves, they instantly droop and fold. And after a few minutes, the plant returns to its normal state. So let's go ahead and take a look at the video. And as you can see, the person just is touching the plant, and its response to that stimulus or touch is it'll fold its leaves, and then after a while it comes back to its normal state. So this is a perfect example of sensitivity or response to stimuli. Something that is living will respond, almost like a reflex or some type of response to light, touch, right? Then next we have reproduction, and we have these kittens, in this what seems to be like a basket. They've inherited genes from both parents and share some of the same characteristics. So organisms reproduce, and that's to keep that species alive, and then continue on, reproduce. And it's important to note, even if not all of the cats, look exactly the same, more times than likely, or at least not more times than likely, but they actually do share or have the same inherited genes from both parents. Phenotypically meaning the look. They may look like their parents, and in some instances may not exactly look like the brother and sister or the siblings, but they definitely have some of the same genes as both parents, and even share them among their siblings, because these genes are passed down from generation to generation. And in living with life, living things reproduce. And the same is true for a lot of plants as well. Not just kittens, right? Even for ourselves as humans, we reproduce, keep the species alive, and we carry our genes and have offspring, and it goes on for generations. Next, we have homeostasis, and this is to maintain. You have humans and animals. An example of this, I have another video. We have this guy from Key and Peele, sweating, working out or doing very hard work. What happens is your body temperature raises, and to control that temperature, you have sweat glands that produce sweat, and this helps cool your body down. So as the water in the sweat evaporates, the surface of the skin cools. And if we go back for homeostasis, we're saying that it is to maintain internal balance. This living organism is getting hot, you're getting hot, you're working, you're running. We have to have some type of control or maintain internal function. So what do? We cool down the body. As it's getting warm, it's getting hot. You have sweat glands to produce the sweat evaporates, and it helps keep you cool. So thank your sweat glands. And thank evolution as well, because this has a big role in a lot of this, and we'll see this in later chapters. Lastly, we have energy processing. I think this is a condor, and it actually is an endangered species. And what they've done here is they've added like a tag to the wing to help identify and locate each individual bird. So with energy processing, a lot of energy is required for this condor to fly. So with that, you have chemical energy from food, which is used to power flight. So with living organisms, we do energy processing, which we get through our food. We have to have energy in order to do what we need to do, to run, to walk, to raise our hand. So if you haven't had food, you're usually weak, you're tired, you're not able to function. And living things need energy to be able to do what they need to do, process that energy to do what they're able to do. And the condor does the same thing. This thing can't fly if it doesn't have food, it'll die. And the same is true for living organisms. They need food, and to process in that food, it has energy, it has everything that we need to function. So now if we go into levels of organization of living things, as I've already mentioned, we're highly organized and structured, and we're actually made up of the smallest unit, which is the atom. It's the smallest unit of matter, and it consists of a nucleus surrounded by an electron. And an example of that is this hydrogen that we have here. And then we go into a molecule. Molecule are two or more atoms. So you have atom at the smallest unit, and then we have more than one atom. You get a molecule, which is held by a chemical bond. And then you have macromolecules, which are larger molecules, which are combined of, smaller units called monomers. So the how it works is you have an atom, the molecule, and then macromolecule. And the macromolecules are important. Some of them are proteins, DNA, nucleic acids. Nucleic acids, proteins, and then carbohydrates. These very large macromolecules, which again are very important in function in the living organism. Molecules come together with other molecules to form organelles. So now you can see where we're going here, right? Organelles are small structures that exist within the cell and perform specialized functions. Cells are the smallest fundamental unit of a living organism. And then all living things are made up of cells. And you guys can kind of see to the right, we have it numbered. These are each cells, the first cell, second cell, third cell. And then over to our left is a typical, textbook schematic that shows some of the organelles. And again, these are small structures for specific functions in a cell. So we have the DNA, we have the cytoplasm, cell membrane, lysosome, Golgi apparatus. And again, a lot of these will be discussed in future lectures, but this is all very generalized for us. Next, we have classifying organisms. So we're saying that living things, the smallest, the smallest unit is atom. Atoms make up molecules. Molecules make up macromolecules. Then we say these molecules then make organelles, which are specialized functions within cells. And then when you add all those cells up together, it makes an organism. The cell, the tissue, organs, organ system. And now we're talking about classification here, where there's actually two types of organisms. There's the prokaryotes and eukaryotes. The prokaryotes are single-celled organisms that do not have a membrane-bound nucleus nor organelle surrounded by a membrane. Some examples of this are like a bacteria, which are prokaryotes. They're considered an organism and living. However, they are single-celled and they do not have organelles, and they're not as complex as the eukaryote, which are us, cats, dogs, right? These are organisms with cells that do have a membrane-bound nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. So when they talk about membrane-bound organelles on living systems, a lot of the organelles actually have a membrane around them, and then also they have a nucleus. They have a nucleus that is membrane-bound. Okay, but a lot of prokaryotes, they have no membrane around the nucleus, nor do they have organelles that are surrounded by a membrane, which is kind of just like a barrier, right, for that organelle or that nucleus. So then, as I mentioned before, we're still going up that ladder. Now we're at cells. Cells combine to make tissues, a group of similar cells that carry out the same function. So again, the types of cells that you have in your heart are different from the cells that you have in your liver, right? But since all the cells in the heart are the same, this makes up tissue. Okay. Then organs are a collection of tissues. So when you have all those tissues together, you form the heart, you form the liver, right? Which are all organs. And these come together based on a common function. Then you have organ system. Organ system consists of functionally related organs. With living systems, you have multiple organs that all work together to keep you alive. It's an entire system. And that whole system is what makes up the organism. The organisms are individual living entities. So I think you guys kind of get the idea here. We're highly organized. We're all made up of cells, and these cells are made up of atoms, which are made up of molecules and macromolecules. And these cells, when grouped together in a similar function, can make tissues, and tissues make organs, organ systems, and then you have the organism. Next, you have the next step in organization is a population. This is all individuals of the species living within the specific area. A community is a set of populations inhabiting a particular area. An ecosystem consists of all the living things, abiotic, which is non-living things in the particular area. And then you have the biosphere, which is kind of like Earth, is the collection of all ecosystems. It represents the zones of life on Earth, water, portions of the atmosphere. So in a population, it's all the individuals of the species. So you can think of a population of duck that are in one area. Then you have a community, which can branch from having ducks, iguanas, and maybe some rabbits, a community in a particular area. Then you have an ecosystem. You have the lake, you have the grass, you have some rocks, and then you have some, you have the ducks, the bunnies, and then the iguanas. That's an ecosystem. You're including the non-living stuff like the rock and the water. They're considered non-living. Then you have the biosphere, and the example of that is Earth. This includes land, water, portions of the atmosphere, and all different ecosystems. Some of the ecosystems can be a rainforest, for example. And you're grouping all of these ecosystems in one. And the perfect example of this is the Earth. So you guys can see a better image here where, again, you have an atom, a lithium atom. An atom becomes a molecule. That becomes a macromolecule. And then macromolecules make up cells. These cells make up tissue. And then that tissue makes up an organ like the brain, for example. Then you have an organ system, the respiratory system. And then you have the organism. You have a population of lions. Then a community, you have different species. So you have lions and zebras that make that community. And then the ecosystem are the lions, zebras, trees, grass, soil, etc., rock, including the abiotic or non-living things. And then you have the biosphere, life on Earth. All right. And then I think we'll end it here with the diversity of life. I want us to really stick on living things and, really getting those characteristics down. And then in part 2, we'll go over the diversity of life. We'll talk more about the Cambrian explosion, and then we'll go into some scientific methods. So if you guys enjoyed this video, stay tuned for part 2. Make sure you guys go ahead and remember the important key core concepts of the first half of this video. Again, living things are highly ordered and complex. They have homeostasis, energy processing. They take food, and from the food, they get energy to process to do what they need to do. They have offspring. They reproduce, right? They are made up of one or more cells, many cells, highly ordered and complex. Okay, so I just want you guys to remember some of these things, and then remembering life as we know it, it is based on the life that we know on Earth. These are some of the characteristics based on the organisms we have on Earth. Okay, so we'll wait till the next video, and then we'll go into diversity of life. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.